Hey yo, this is Dillio coming to another video. This is another independent artist empowerment video where I provide tips and tricks and motivation for you in your musical journey, your music production journey, and beyond. And in this video, we're going to talk about valuing your time. Time is probably one of our most valuable assets. However, it can be one of the most neglected things that people do and use in our lifetimes right now, especially dealing with music or collaborations or with creative people. Tell you a little quick story. So I pinned the time to book someone to meet me at a specific time. However, our situations are different. There are a lot of people out there that probably have a lot more time on their hands because they don't work a day job or they have a lifestyle that enables them a lot more flexibility. However, if you're someone like me who still hasn't quite managed to make a full-time living off of their music, they have to be very specific about their time needs because they have obligations during the workday and maybe family obligations and things of that nature. So it's very important to work with that and be most effective. But sometimes what happens is that if your time is limited, there may be those around you that may not have that same value of your time. But, you know, there's a lot of individuals that like to get around and get to what they want to start to when they get ready. And I can understand that the doing things when you get ready will work for those individuals. When they're not working, they have a lot of time on their hands, and that may work. And I understand that. I'll be the first to tell you about shows and things of that nature starting late or starting whenever they get ready. And a lot of times, unfortunately, at the independent level, there are no contracts or things in place to guarantee that an event starts on time, and a lot of times events will wait till the crowds come before they start to make sure that there are people there. So that's more of a when you get ready. But you know, if you're coming in a situation where you got to work the next day, you got to be prepared for that flexibility. But sometimes you want to make sure to pull that flexibility back and say, no, I cannot push back my deadline. So going back to the story was this. The story was the person wanted to, we set up a time. It's like, hey, let's get together. The thing you want to pay attention to when people say, hey, I want to get together, is like, okay, cool. What time, when, and where? You got to establish that, because if you don't have that, you might run into a situation where you'll end up wasting your time or things may not go as planned. And I just empower you today that if that's a situation in your life where you run into people saying, hey, let's get together, let's do this and do that, we're going to do this and do that. If they're unable to really get specific about their situation, then it might be time to take inventory on whether you should be working with that person or settle with the situation and say, okay, I know this person isn't going to start on time. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with waiting 2 or 3 more hours and spending more time over there at that person in their place of business, and saying, all right, no, you know, it just kind of works like that. And it may not be to your benefit to allow people to use their time up like that, because your time is valuable. Your time is one of your greatest assets, and it's what you use to build up your brand and your thing. And once you get good at what you do, certain times people want to get around your program, but however, they're not working on such a strict schedule as you. They may not have things lined up on their plate, and they may not be formally trying to run their time. And I know it gets difficult and it's very easy to get burnt out, but you have to understand that you are a professional and it's very important for you to manage your time. So dealing with an individual, yeah, we booked a time, place. I said, all right, we're going to meet here at this time, you know, and I don't call to reconfirm, because here's one thing I've learned about negotiation. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty confident about that. I don't reconfirm, because when I say I'm going to be somewhere at a certain time, I try to evaluate all the factors that are in my lifestyle that could get in the way of creating a problem there. And if I book a time to meet up, it is my intention to meet up at that time. I'm not going to reconfirm and say, hey, so, you know, I'm not one of those type of people that say, well, I was waiting for you to call me up. You ever been through that situation where someone says, well, I was waiting to hear back from you, and they kind of deflect the responsibility on you for not following through what they said solely based on them not hearing from you? And you have to watch out for that, and that can kind of be a pitfall of your time. But the thing is like when you book something with an individual, like how I did, I say, hey, we're going to meet at this time, and I have cleared my schedule to make sure I meet at this time. And I've made sure ahead of time that my other things that are scheduled during the day will line up with that. Well, this individual wanted to call 30 minutes ahead of the time we were supposed to meet up and wanted to push back to 8. And I had to politely say, I'm sorry, but I cannot push back to 8. I had my whole day set up. I scheduled to meet you at this time. We're going to have to talk again and set up another time later. Now, at that point in time, that might be a little bit of a shady negotiation there, because now you're leaving the door open to say, hey, we can either call again and talk about meeting again for another time or not. You really have to kind of pay attention to what people are doing. And like I said, there are individuals that are out there, and it's totally fine, and I respect that are willing to kind of do things whenever they feel like. They're willing to do things that could help their career or help their brand when they get ready. But the problem is that when they don't pay attention to that mentality of doing things when you get around to it, when you feel like it, can affect other people's schedule, can affect other people's ability to continue to work on their brand, and really creates a situation where it could provide a rift of, well, I might not want to work with this person again because we agreed to meet at this time to do this thing at this time, and now things are changing on the fly. And you have to really watch out for that. And I think it's important to give people a chance and explain, hey, this is what went wrong. But after you explain how you feel and how it affected you with your scheduling your day, if that person doesn't want to actively make a change to make sure that things follow a certain schedule as professionals, there's no love lost, but then you might have to try and pull back on your willingness to work with that individual who doesn't take your time serious. And I know it's hard. I think in our culture today, it's very easy to be very flexible and loose with commitments, especially time commitments to do a certain action. Unfortunately, that's what leads you to a year going by without making any music, or 2 years going by without making any products, or 3 years going by, you're not making any YouTube videos, you're not writing any songs. And it's because a lot of times, and even me myself, will rely on things being perfect before we start following through on the things that matter to us the most. And I think it's very important to know that you really have to set time aside for yourself in a busy schedule, where you work a day job or not. And personally, I feel like if you do not work a day job but you still have work to do, you're even more empowered to set aside specific times for when you are supposed to start working on that task, and when to stop working on that task. Like if you're working and you're not working a 9 to 5 with set hours, I feel like you're in the most powerful position of all to be able to create a schedule and to create your reality yourself, especially if you have the means to do so, to create a reality yourself and set up your day how you want it to go. And when you do that, you're even further along than the person, and then the person who has to work a 9 to 5 and then truncate all the stuff after working during the day into the tasks that they need to take care of on their passions. And it may come off as idealistic, but I think that's a great way to be if you're in a position where you're a full-time entrepreneur, to set aside time and to plan your day and have structure to your day. Don't rely on perfect situation. Don't rely on, I get around to it. And I understand that. And I'm the same way, because sometimes I will do that with my live streams, but I know that Wednesdays I'm live streaming from like 9 to 11. Like, I know that. And I have mental notes, and I write down, hey, I'm going to stick to that. So it's very important to remember that process, and just be aware of your time, and just try to be sensitive to how people treat you and your time. Do people treat you and your time and say, yeah, let's come over and let's do something and work on this project, and then change up and do nothing for the next 2 or 3 hours? Or do they say, hey, thank you for showing up on time. Let's go and knock this out. Let's get this work done so that you can go and move on to your next thing that's important to you. And what I try to do when I work with people is, I try to say, hey, your time is important. That's why we're going to do this at this time. That's why it's important for you to show up on time. Because if you show up late, and an hour or 30 minutes, an hour late, now we're playing catch up, trying to finish these tasks and stuff like that. I hate saying that. I'm working on that, but I'm not going to edit this out. So it's very important to be conscious of your time. Be conscious of how those treat you in your time, because very easily people may not know it, but they may take your time for granted without your even knowing it if you're not paying attention. And I don't think people are doing things from ill will, but you have to be conscious of your time, conscious of your energy, so that you can maximize the little time that you have during the day. Time is, once again, our most valuable asset. So it's very important to make sure you pay attention to what time you're giving others, and also time that you're giving yourself, and also the time that you have with each other to maximize it. It's very important to remember that. And that's one of the things I try to do when I try to invite someone in my projects, or I invite someone into what I'm doing. I'm making sure that I alleviate all distractions and everything so that I can be the most effective for that person, because that's what I would want. I want to treat that person like a busy individual, like a superstar. Hey, thank you so much for bringing yourself here and allow me to share some of your time. Therefore, I'm going to make sure that I have everything prepared ahead of time and have a game plan to make your experience easy as possible, so that when you go, you feel like you got something done, you didn't waste your time, and you're more likely to come back again because I treated your time in the same way I would treat my own. So I hope that inspires you to pay attention to the time that you spend on what you're doing, and also the time that you spend on not what you're doing. And it's okay to set informal times to just hang out. That's a totally different monster, where you're just hanging out. There's no work to be done. And whenever, it's good to set aside time for that. But don't overlap that with when you're trying to work. Does that make any sense? Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you on the next one. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm out. Peace.
Dillio on the track.